بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Today's reading is from chapter 6. I'm going to read the translation from verse 160 down to I think it's the end of the chapter, that's right. But in Arabic I will only recite verse 161. Sorry, from 161 to the end of the chapter. Man jaa bil hasanati falahu ashru amthaliha wa man jaa bis sayyiati fala yujza illa mislaha wa hum la yuzlamun. Sadaqallahul aliyyul azim. This is, as I said, verse 161 of chapter 6. Whoever brings a good deed will have tenfold like it, and whoever brings an evil deed will be recompensed only with the like of it, and they shall not be wronged. Say, for me, my Lord has guided me to the right path, a right religion, the faith of Abraham, the upright one, and he was not of the polytheists. Say, my prayer, my sacrifice, and my life and my death are surely all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. No associate has He, and this am I commanded, and I am the first of those who submit. Say, shall I seek a Lord other than Allah, while He is the Lord of all things? No soul earns evil but against itself, nor does a bearer of a burden bear the burden of another. Then to your Lord is your return. So He will inform you of that in which you differed. And He it is who has made you successors in the land and exalted some of you in rank above others, that He may try you by what He has given you. Surely thy Lord is quick in requiting evil, and He is surely the forgiving, the merciful. There are two, all of this teaching here is absolutely superlative, as is the rest of the Holy Quran. But I want to concentrate on two verses. 162. Say, my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, my death are all for Allah. And the second one is that no soul earns evil but against itself, nor does a bearer of burden bear another's burden. Because when it comes to doing something, then we ask ourselves why we are doing it. And that verse tells us why. That everything we do in life should be for the sake of Allah. And everything is mentioned there. My sacrifice, my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, my death are all for His sake. This is your duty. This is the object and objective of your life. That whatever you do is for Allah's sake and not for some worldly gain. Because this is what will stop you from doing the wrong thing forever. Because you will not do the wrong thing if you're doing things for Allah's sake. And we saw elders of the Jamaat doing this. There are cases, I'm not going to mention names, but there were cases when a father stood up and gave evidence against his own children. Why? Because that was the right thing to do. God says to us in the Holy Quran, bear true witness even if it's against your near and dear ones, against your relative, against whoever. And he was following that. Why? Because in accordance with this verse, everything he does should be for the sake of Allah. And Allah said, bear true witness. So if you're doing things for Allah's sake, you will not do the wrong thing. But if you're doing things for the sake of your family, for the sake of your children, for the sake of your promotion, for the sake of earning a profit, you will console yourself by things like Oh, this is only a little white lie. It doesn't matter. It's only a small lie. It makes no difference. Yes, every lie makes a difference. The promised Messiah put it beautifully when he said that sin is like rust. Rust starts with a very small spot on a piece of iron. But over time, it covers the whole of it and discolors it. He said sin is exactly like that. No one starts with a big sin. You start with a small sin. And then your soul, yourself, stops accusing you, blaming you, feeling guilty for the fact that you've done something wrong for worldly benefit or for your family or whatever. And the next time, a much bigger lie, a much bigger dishonesty, a much bigger sin doesn't seem so bad compared to the first one. And so it goes on until even the biggest sin does not. You don't find that distasteful. And this is why God says that everything that you do, you pray. Why do you pray? Is it to become close to God? Is it to seek some benefit or some advantage? Is it to impress people? If you're praying for those reasons, then your prayer is meaningless because you're doing it selfishly. Everything that you do should be selfless, should not be for your sake or anyone else's sake, but only for Allah's sake. And once you start doing that, then you'll see how much better your life will be. You know, there was a great Sufi, I forget his name at the moment, and he was a great businessman as well. There is this misconception that pious people, righteous people are not successful businessmen or generals or whatever. And a man came running in and said, you know, all those ships carrying your merchandise, the sea that they were traversing, there was a storm, and they all perished. They all sank. And the Sufi was quiet. And then he lifted his head and he said, Alhamdulillah. And then half an hour went by and another man came running in and he said, all your ships are safe. By the time the storm hit, they'd actually cleared the sea where the storm hit. And they were close to their destination. So everything is safe. You're still a rich man. You're still a millionaire. And again, the Sheikh was quiet. And then he raised his head and said, Alhamdulillah. And people were puzzled. And they said to him, we don't understand. And he said, what is it that you don't understand? And they said, we understand you said Alhamdulillah when ships were found. But you also said Alhamdulillah when you got the news that the ships had perished. And the Sufi said, you're all fools. When I got the news that the ships had been lost at sea, I looked into my heart to see if there was any grief, any sadness at the loss of everything that I possessed in the world. And I didn't find any sadness. I didn't find any grief. And when the ships were found, I again looked into my heart to see if there was any joy, any happiness on receiving the news that I was still a millionaire. And I found no joy. And I said, Alhamdulillah. My Alhamdulillah was to thank God for the fact that things of this world have so little meaning for me. That if I lose them, I don't grieve. If I gain them, I don't rejoice. Because they're all for Allah's sake, not to make me look rich. And you see, another thing we always do is that we blame others when wrong things are done. But on the day of judgment, we will not be asked what others have done or not done. We'll be questioned about what we have done. The verse of the Holy Quran says, no soul earns evil but against itself, nor does a bearer of burden bear another's burden. So if your neighbor is doing something wrong, God will not ask you about your neighbor, God will ask you about yourself. And this is what we always forget. People say, if Quranic teaching was implemented by law, by Sharia in this country or that country, everything would be fine. The Quran says pray. Why does the government have to pass a law for you to pray? And what I find amazing is that God tells you to pray and you don't pray. But some worldly leader is going to tell you to pray and you're going to do it. Will those prayers have any meaning? Will those prayers find any acceptance in God's eyes when the verse told you, my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, my death are all for Allah. And you didn't make them for Allah. Worry about yourself. Don't worry about Tom, Dick, and Harry. Why are you worried about that? Will you be asked about their deeds? Even if you take this world, if a person is charged with, let's say, theft or robbery and taken to the judge, and his defense is, oh, forget about me, my neighbor is also a robber. And that's my defense. Don't look at what I did, look at what my neighbor did. And the other thing is our excuse. Everyone's doing it. But everyone will be answerable for their own deeds. You will be answerable for yours. Well, everyone is doing it. I got a taxi and there were a lot of exhaust fumes and so on and so forth. And I said to the taxi driver, you're polluting the environment, the air. Why don't you get your engine fixed? And his answer was, well, all taxis are like that. What difference would it make if I get my taxi fixed? What kind of defense is that? If you read the Holy Quran, the lesson you learn is that you worry about yourself. You don't worry about others, what others did or did not do. You worry about yourself. Why? Because you have to answer for yourself, not for others. You don't have to answer for your relatives, for your parents, for your brothers, your sisters, your wife, your children, and so on. Only for yourself. We have election campaigns these days, and in every country, what do we see? Politicians blaming each other. You did this wrong, you did that wrong, and so on. And not so much of what I'm going to do. Have you noticed that? Isn't that an extension of the same problem? That you blame others. And again, that is not the point, what others did. You will be answerable for what you did. And I end by telling you my favorite story that I've related here many times of a little sparrow who saw a huge jungle on fire and rushed to the river and got a drop of water in its beak and dropped it on that fire. And then went back and got another drop and so on until it was exhausted and it collapsed. And someone said to the sparrow, "You stupid bird, do you really think that you could put that huge fire out by these little drops of water?" And the sparrow replied, "That's not the point. On the day of judgment, when I'm questioned, God's question will be, did you do everything that you could to put that fire out? And not whether I succeeded in putting the fire out. Because I can do no more than my best." And my answer will be yes, until I collapsed with exhaustion. I kept on putting little drops of water on that fire. And that is how we should be. Like that little sparrow. Not worry about whether others are trying to put out the fire or not. But do our own very best. It may seem very little. Let it be little. It doesn't matter. As they say, it takes little individual drops and they gather together and then a river gushes forth. But if every drop was to remain on its own, then it will get absorbed by earth and perish. But even that doesn't matter, because that drop did whatever it could. But just think of what change can be brought about if all these little drops of goodness are joined together and do the deeds for Allah's sake, not to win the election, not to as a favor to their family, not to make money, not to get promotion. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quranil Azim wa nafana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim innahu ta'ala jawadun kareem malikun barraufur rahim. Alhamdulillahi nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا منهم واخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والبغي عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده ربنا الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله. كل ذنب Thank you for joining us for today's Friday service. Eid al-Adha is on Monday, so I wish you a very happy Eid Mubarak. And the lesson of Eid al-Adha is also to sacrifice your personal desires for the benefit of humanity and for Allah's sake. When you pray, please pray all those in difficulty, regardless of what their religion or sect or color or creed or nationality may be. Pray for our brothers and sisters and children in Palestine who are undergoing what can only be described as a genocide by a cruel regime. And also pray for the perpetrators of that genocide, that Allah may give them knowledge, insight, wisdom to see that humanity's problems will not be solved by killing each other, but by sitting down and talking to each other, talking with each other like brothers and sisters. Until we meet again next Friday, Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.